Greetings, ladies and gents, and welcome to this narration of the web series The Nature of Predators. If you are new to the series, there is a playlist listed down below in the description. And as always, I hope that you enjoy. Memory transcription, subject, Slanek, Vendel Space Corps. Date, Standardized Human Time, November 29th, 2136. The extermination office featured a modest array of cubicles past the lobby. There were more employment opportunities than hunting predators. Call centers had to be operational around the clock, and another set of pencil pushers checked web reports. Other workers researched infestations, identifying potential culprits and their method of survival. These briefings prepared for the officers for the job's challenges. The humans peered around the entrance before the brave few slid into a cubicle. No gunfire was unleashed at our appearance, so the rest of us took positions. Marcel produced a pocket-sized drone, and the device silently soared into the air. It glided over rows of cubicles, searching for any heat signatures. The miniature robot stopped near a window and zoomed into two tillfish. The predators crept forward, with the same silence as their ancestors used to hunt creatures twice their size. Dino mimicking their focus, as its handler whispered something to it. The dog seated itself, and I took my opportunity to distance myself. The gun felt light as a feather in my grip. It stayed pointed right at the hiding spot. Marcel poked his gun over the cubicle wall, and his comrades also shoved scopes at the tillfish. The mandibles clicked with terror, surprised by the primate's stealth. They bent their heads in a gesture of submission. Large predators should be able to approach without audible cues, yet humans could suppress their footsteps so well.
"Please don't shoot us," the insectoid clicked. "We are just IT workers. We surrender."
Marcel jerked the gun skyward. "Stand up," and walked towards the window. The tillfish scuttled back, though their compound eyes lingered on the predators. My human shouted demands to turn around, but the enemy hesitated to comply. Something was odd about their posture, and I couldn't chalk it up to fear. Their appendages seemed to be folded to conceal an object. Marcel approached to search the workers. His hazel eyes were narrowed to slits. The tillfish's thoraxes twitched, poised to strike out. Without any consideration, I lunged at one of them. The insectoid I tackled buckled under my grip and kicked at its cohort in the process. I clung on for dear life, reaching for whatever it was in its clutches. The humans noticed the downed one was wielding a gun. That IT worker was scrambling to right himself. Multiple bullets incised the hostile's exoskeleton before they could enact his plans. Marcel pointed his firearm at the one I was riding, but he couldn't get a clean shot. The tillfish had latched onto my forepaw, which prevented me from dismounting. I screeched as the tillfish slammed me against the wall. Adrenaline surged through my veins like a drug. My free arm shot towards a lens like eyes, and I sank tiny claws into its smooth flesh. He howled in pain, loosening his grip on my other paw. My body crashed into the floor with a thud, knocking the wind out of my lungs. The predators pumped the tillfish full of lead before he could try anything else. Some blood splattered on my fur, painting yellow splotches across my chest. Every muscle in my body quivered as horror washed over me. I crawled back towards the humans and struggled to my feet. Several primates helped wipe the blood off, checking me for injuries. "Slanek, for the love of God, why did you not shoot those tillfish?" Marcel grunted. I straightened my head for,
Well, I saw them reaching for a weapon."
"I understand that. My question stands."
"I don't know. Let's get moving."
Terran soldiers swept the room, verifying that other tillfish hadn't stowed away. We progressed to an interior stairwell, which led to an upper floor. The armory was tucked by the landing, but it had been emptied of guns and flamethrowers. The exterminators found a use for every weapon in their possession. I hugged the wall alongside Marcel, using his presence to ground me. Every instinct suggested to hyperventilate and dwell on the bloodshed I had kick-started. But giving in to those thoughts wouldn't facilitate my survival. It would hinder the UN's mission too. These tillfish needed to die because they were a threat to Earth. There was nothing else to consider. These rebels were the strongest advocates for joining that genocidal raid, I imagined. They're responsible for the billions dead. The predators were hesitant to climb the stairwell. There had been dozens of life signatures in this building, so the bulk were waiting at the top floor. Per the tactics of UN drilled into me, this was a choke point. It wasn't advantageous to the defenders and forced assailants to cover multiple angles. Grenades weren't a viable option, with their tendency to roll back on us.
Is there another way up?
I whispered. Marcel shrugged. We could just blow this place to Kingdom Come, but the brass doesn't want collateral. There's no telling if there's hostages till we sweep the premises.
I'm surprised you didn't suggest dropping out of the sky. That is the human way, as I recall.
Intel suggests this faction has surface-to-air capabilities. Attaining a ladder is possible, but the roof is likely booby-trapped anyways. These fellas seem to want us to come to them.
Why?
I don't know. They're basically a cult, and they're cornered. They could be planning to take us down with them. My human turned his gun skyward and inched back first towards the stairs. He popped off several shots from a sharp angle, which connected with one tillfish. Judging by the alarmed chatter, there were 6 or 7 defenders perched above us. The insects leaned over the railing and rained fire down on the redhead. Tension crossed Marcel's scarred face as he ducked back under the alcove. The humans waited for the enemy to deplete ammunition, knowing they weren't conservative in its usage. My friend peeked back out, and it was joined by a pair of comrades. The trio offered suppressive fire as the Terran troops hustled up the stairs. I swallowed my nose, which reminded me what an easy target I was. If these humans could bear the risk, so could I. This was about trusting their plan. My feet sprinted up 2 stairs at a time, and I joined our squad midway up. We had a better line of sight from this angle, which allowed us to bombard the tillfish. One human dropped beside me, and another released a strained yelp. This charge was a strategical blunder, but it was the lesser evil of our options. We were hoping to scale the incline as quickly as possible, though I was too frazzled to aim. I got off several blind shots. Whether or not my bullets contributed, the exterminators were gunned down in seconds. Panting heavily, I labored up the rest of the stairs. The predators tended to our wounded, lugging both to the top. One's binocular eyes were glassy, suggesting that they were already gone. My eyes shot back to Marcel, who was the first to engage tillfish. Relief clamped at my heart when I saw him hobbling up behind me. His brazenness could have gotten him killed. Marcel tested the door. Easy now. We're going to sustain losses, Linek. We can't let that distract us. We all know the risks.
I didn't say anything, I squeaked.
You didn't have to. You wear your emotions all over your face. I rubbed my temples, trying to fight the ever-nagging headache. Dino bounded up the stairs and began sniffing at my legs. The dog's presence was the last straw, in a situation that was stressful already. Why couldn't the damn beast leave me alone? Wasn't it enough that I was in imminent danger from bullets? The humans departed the stairwell onto the second floor, and a slew of gunfire welcomed them. I bolted away from Dino. Getting a shot was preferable to the creepy drooling. This appeared to be some sort of break room, with lounges, stools, tables, and mini kitchen in the area. The tillfish had condensed the lounge chairs into fortifications and upturned the tables for cover too. Our positions was a barren bottleneck, which was by design. Glass shattered to my left as a window was nailed by errant bullets. Shards glinted on the floor and reflected the sunlight pouring in. I suddenly wished I had goofy paw coverings like the humans. My feet weren't fleshy like theirs, but pads wouldn't stop me from impaling myself.
Yes, the only place to hide is by the cabinet to my right. Already lots of humans coming in there, though. Need somewhere less crowded.
Keeping as far away from the broken window as possible, I scampered across to the opposite end of the room. Bullets whizzed past my head and took out several humans who tailed me. A handful of us reached the other side, where an arch opened up to a parallel corridor. Further down, there was a set of doors marked with biohazard symbol. I assumed that was where the prey remains and predator experimentation were housed. Bootsteps closed in on my position, rough and unsteady. Marcel dived through the archway, flashing his teeth at me. He huddled up against the wall, and the predator chemicals caused his eyes to dilate. The vegetarian sucked in several breaths, while the tillfish gunfire peppered the plaster around us. I risked a brief glance at my paw pads, which seemed clear of glass. UN soldiers retreated to the stairwell as bullets decimated their position. My side's advance was secure against the support wall for now, but the firefight had ground to an impasse. The tillfish exterminators needed to be flushed from their shelter before we incurred more losses. I propped my gun up against my chest.
These bastards think they can hunker down. What about grenades now?
I thought you'd never ask, the Terran chuckled. Several soldiers readied grenades, calculating the perfect moment to strike. Human predation was methodical, a far cry from the mindless chasing. Their discipline kept their units functioning as well-oiled machines. If I was opposing them, efficiency would be more frightening than the animalistic frenzy. Terrans were much less likely to make mistakes than an Arxor. I was grateful to be on their team. If first contact had gone differently, the Vendler would have been the first ones fighting them. We would never have had exchange program, which meant that I'd still see humans as monsters. What fate would befall Earth had Sovlin gotten his mitts on the Odyssey's astronauts? My friend would be dead too, and I might have helped kill him. I shook my head, not wanting to think about the dreadful casualties. The predators clattered explosives across the floor, which arrived at the Tillfish's fortifications. Marcel wouldn't let me carry grenades, since my throwing ability was negligible. Human arm torsion was of effortless, in contrast. Hunting with spears forced their ancestors to evolve precision. Enemy screams swallowed the grenades as the detonators tore any shelter apart. This time, I understood that humans would capitalize on the chaos. My legs propelled me back into the room, forsaking the corridors for refuge. A few Tillfish their guns, but most hostiles languished on the floor. Buttery blood washed across the tile, with splatter reaching up the walls. The Terrans strode up to the barricades, Dino darting into the heart of the action as well. The dogs subdued any Tillfish who was rising, while the humans picked off the writhing targets. UN soldiers admired the heap of bug corpses, poking a few to ensure that they were dead. Our ranks sustained some damage in the fray, but we got the better end of the bargain. Marcel shuffled into the corridor. So that door we saw, I've learned the Federation warning symbols, and the last thing we need is them springing a true cure on us. Are they testing bioweapons here?
Highly unlikely. Consider where we are. It's marked biohazard because of predator contamination. You are predator contamination, lots of it, so I doubt you care.
You never know, Slanek. Contact with some animal's saliva might turn me into a super predator, with claws and horns.
I'd be more worried about that with Dino than you. You ready to end this?
The redhead nodded. I mulled over how their teasing behavior had rubbed off on me. Sarcasm had never featured in my lexicon so regularly. It did seem like a healthy way to express stress, especially in extreme situations. Bantering with my predator distracted me from the nauseating fear. Upon closer inspection, the biohazard door was left ajar. Marcel nudged it with his foot, eliciting a mournful creak. The human made a gagging noise and tugged his shirt over his nose. I wasn't sure what his reaction was pertained to, given my lack of smell. Was the air laced with some poison? Ugh! The acrid smell, Marcel coughed. My gaze darted to the floor, and the source of this discomfort revealed itself. A thin coating of brownish liquid amassed, like a wading pool. The gasoline was discernible upon entry, even with blinders on. Did the exterminators think humans would trample through a blaze zone? Most sapiens avoid burning alive where possible. I swished my tail in disgust.
Petrol, there must be a few Tillfish camped inside, waiting to set it off.
I don't have time for this. Playing with Timberwoods is not on my agenda. The human's teeth protruded with malevolence as he acquired a match. How about a little role reversal? Surprise, feckers! After lighting the object in his hand, Marcel dropped the spark onto the gasoline rim. Orange fire snaked across the liquid and leapt onto the secondary fuel, walls, furniture, and Tillfish alike. My human turned his back on the inferno and strolled back to the stairway. While the exterminators achieved their self-immolation plan, we needed to double-time it out of here. The UN troops jogged past the break room's bodied rail and skipped down the stairway. Their longer legs allowed them to retrace their steps quickly. I lagged behind them a bit, but my friend circled back for me. Marcel scooped me up in his strong arms, ignoring his own exhaustion. The human was a good herdmate. He always looked out for my welfare.
I know he'd never leave me behind, come stampede or high water.
It was a quick journey, cuddling against the muscular form. We hustled past the cubicles and the lobby, before bursting into fresh air. The blaze had gained intensity as it battered the upper windows. I spotted Tillfish silhouettes thrashing about, enveloped by smoke and debris. Perhaps it was unwise that the professionals made their workshop flammable by design. Guard each exit, Marcel barked. Those exterminators either burn alive or they try to evacuate. Unless they come out surrendering, shoot any you see. Dino's quadrupedal form was visible amongst our ranks. The dog strayed from its handler and opted to harass me again. In a rare moment of bravery, I shoved its snout away. It offered a pitiful whine before curling up at my feet nonetheless. Its brown eyes never left me, and it thumped its tail in a single time. Why wouldn't it leave me alone? It was for Malsal's sake that I didn't chase it off with my gun. I hated that much, just as much as the humans adored it. Once we cleared the neighborhoods of rogue patrols, the mission would be complete. I couldn't wait to achieve victory, so that I could get myself far away from the feral predator. End of story. I'd quickly like to thank the T5 channel members and patrons: Casper Arnholtz, Cam Maxwell, Lord Azrakal, Dragzoon W.R.E, Holly's Sister, Ambrose Cattell, and Quantum Wednesday. Thank you very much.